Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble! Get ready to rumble!
Pump up the jig, yo, pump it up, yo, pump it. Y'all ready for this?
Welcome in. We are live on the Heat Ratio podcast. I'm your host, Tony Cotillo at TCotillo23. Joined, I have a special guest tonight, Renee Washington, the host of Beyond the Headlines on Fox Sports and Locked On Wizards. She is one of the most busiest reporters on Twitter, on social media, everywhere. Renee, thank you so much for joining me.
Tony, thank you for that great introduction. I try to stay busy. So yes, I appreciate you having me on the Heat Ratio though.
I am intrigued. I seen you on the sidelines for Ivy League football. I see you. I mean, you're like everywhere. It's amazing. It really is. I'm not kidding.
It's ironic because there was a time where I felt like I didn't know where to go or how to get started. And now it feels like opportunities are just pouring in left and right and allowing me to expand my career. So it is just a big testament to my career and the people that I've had around me to help get the opportunity.
It's so true. And even with, this whole COVID pandemic that we're dealing with and, sports on pause, things are starting to restart, but it just seems like there's an abundance of opportunity out there. And it's just, you have to grab it. You have to want it. And I respect it so much because I see the way you grind, I see the way other people grind. And I don't think everybody gets the notoriety that they deserve. So, that's why it's an honor for you to be on this show to talk some NBA basketball. For one, we get to talk sports, which is unbelievable. Thank God.
I know this 4.5 months without sports, it seems like an eternity. And to now finally be able to have these discussions again. And I've been getting into some sports debates and speculations and trade rumors and all this hype that we've missed for the last 4.5 months. It's well overdue. And it's exciting to finally be back talking about what we love to.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? I mean, I know you're fresh off a news conference for the Wizards. They just battled the LA Lakers in a summer game. Well, we call it summer game, but it's like preseason tournament tune-up. We don't even know what we're calling it anymore, right? But this whole NBA bubble, I think, is fascinating. And I've said this before in so many shows that I think the NBA and the NHL did everything the right way, and the NFL and Major League Baseball did things the wrong way, in my opinion. And what I want to ask you is, and we see the actions of players like Lou Williams and Richaun Holmes, will this bubble work? Do you feel like this is exactly the way that we should have went into this situation, into this restart? And do you think the actions of people acting out and going against the bubble will continue to happen?
So, Tony, today alone, I've been in 2 press conferences around the Wizards and the Mystics. I've also been following soccer and their return. And across all leagues, the leagues that are returning with a bubble, the common theme is the fact that they have to hold each other accountable and making sure that everyone's being responsible. We've seen the snitch hotline, as it's called in the NBA bubble. But all jokes aside, it's really on the players, the coaches, the staff, the league to make sure they're setting the precedent of what is acceptable in terms of behavior. And for Lou Williams and Richaun Holmes, both claiming that their actions were because they were getting wings, at the end of the day, something as simple as going out to get wings, although it may be a normal action any other time, as we're dealing with COVID, it's seen with, of course, a bigger microscope and a bigger lens. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the NBA actually responds. And that's going to be the foundation of setting the tone for players to know in the future moving forward, as this is a bubble expectation of, or being in the bubble for the next few months for some teams, depending on how far they go in the playoffs, to let them know this is unacceptable. Although it's something that's innocent in the sense of going to get food, it's not acceptable. It's not okay because of the fact that we are trying to make sure everyone's locked in. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. And for the NFL, the league hasn't even started yet, and there's already a lot of concerns. Any league, like we're seeing in baseball, that's trying to return back to normal and provide teams with home games and allowing them to be around their families, you're putting the families at risk. You're also putting everybody in the arena at risk because there's no protocol in place to make sure that you're quarantining, that you're not being exposed. And it's really just a shame to see the number of positive cases that came out around baseball alone. And I would not be surprised, unfortunately, if you see more coming out around football. So, I think the hardest part is, and I talked about this on with someone on social media earlier, there's really no way to quarantine football and baseball because they have so many more teams. You look at the WNBA, significantly less teams in that league. It's a little easier to have them all quarantined down in Florida at IMG Academy. As for the NFL and for even people were saying college sports should look into a bubble. How? There's no practical way about going, through the bubble protocol for some of these leagues. The NBA, only having a certain amount of teams come back allowed this to be more possible. It's not like they're doing a full season with everyone. You only are inviting in 20, 22 teams. So it makes this bubble season easier. So I think that's the other factor that a lot of people haven't even taken into consideration, the finances, the practicality of it. But I'm just hoping that we can see these numbers go down and it doesn't get worse than what it already is.
No, it's going to be a fluid situation. It really is. And I brought this up earlier for one of the shows I was doing. I'm a youth sports coach, and I'm dealing with this with children. And for people who say, like you said, why can't the NCAA be under a bubble? It's impossible.
Yeah.
And, right. And the maturity level that I have to deal with is not of the children. It's of the parents to say, listen, where you go, what you do affects everybody. And and we're asking players, like you said, for a couple months to sacrifice. Listen, I get it. We've all seen the footage of, the dining experiences that they have. But at the end of the day, it's a sacrifice. This is a sacrifice that you're making. And if you want to opt out, you opt out and you don't play. I mean, it's as simple as that, right? So it's going to be something that continues to build. Major League Baseball, I just think, dropped the ball. And, I said this before, they were so worried about the money aspect that they didn't look at the safety aspect. And
exactly.
Right. And then the Florida Marlins, or Miami Marlins, I'm sorry, but to be able to know that you have players that were positive and then allow them to play is unheard of.
Yeah, it's awful. That's awful.
I hate to laugh. I can't believe it. I really can't.
Not to mention Florida is a hotbed for COVID right now. The numbers and cases, I mean, they're having 10,000 plus cases a day that are coming out positive. So you're already out of Miami where the numbers are skyrocketing each day. And then on top of that, to not even be mindful and respectful of everybody else's health to allow these players to be positive. It's a mess. And I think baseball is unfortunately dropping the ball right now. But, as we mentioned, it's definitely a sacrifice. That's why there was the option to opt out for players. I totally understand, especially as adults. You're telling these adults who are used to doing whatever they want as they're traveling, able to, on a typical away game, have whatever their routine may be, to now completely change that and tell them you can't be around your family for the next 3.5 months. You can't do this. You can't do that. You have to be, even as simple as the teams are not able to intermingle, as they're there, they're stuck within their team, within their hotel. You're literally controlling them like they're children. It is very difficult. And I actually coach youth soccer as well. So I definitely can talk to what you're mentioning about coaching youth sports. It's so hard, but it really ends up being usually the adults that are the ones that are the least responsible about following protocol, continuing to go about things the usual way. And there's a lot of moving parts, but the hardest part is it only takes one. Yes. So that's what makes all of this so difficult and why everyone has to be so much more careful. It only takes one positive case to completely disrupt and affect and have it implode into something scarier.
No, you're absolutely right. And we're here now, and we're just starting to resume, and things are going to continue to happen. And that was the thing we all knew about. You knew that a case here or there was going to spark up. We knew that this was going to happen, but it was the protocol that you would take into consideration about how you stop the spread, how you mitigate it. And Florida, the Miami guy, they just did it wrong. And, with the NBA, hopefully they continue to stick and be disciplined in their nature, and we can get on with the season and get on with this tournament. And that brings us to your Wizards. And I have to, I have to talk to, because I am a huge John Wall guy. And I always want one man fast break, but unfortunately, he just can never stay healthy. And Bradley Beal, I thought, deserved the contract that they got. I compare the Tobias Harris factor and with the 76ers. I said he could be Bradley Beal if he ups his points per game by 4 to 6, but he's just not. But without these two stars in Washington, can you guys compete?
It's a common question that keeps getting asked around the Wizards right now. It's doesn't take a rocket scientist to know the fact that the odds are way against them right now. They're already 5.5 games back from Orlando at the number 8 seed, as they're sitting at number 9. If you look at that 7, 8, 9 spot, Brooklyn, Orlando, the Wizards, it could be a toss up, but for the Wizards specifically, knowing that out of 8 games, they have so much, there's no room for error. They have so much to do to be able to at least force a play-in game, if not get into the postseason. It's a tall task. And, watching their 3 scrimmages that they had and whatever you want to call it, the NBA restart preseason against the Nuggets, the Clippers, and the Lakers, are playing 3 of the top teams in the league. And I thought they had moments and glimpses of hope. And I definitely saw where the youth and their scrappiness and aggression really translated into the game to help them at least be able to compete with these teams. But the biggest thing that I keep stressing is the fact that there really is no pressure on the Wizards right now, to be honest. Everyone has written them off. Everyone expects them to go down there, lose 8 games, and come home. This is 8 games and 3 scrimmages that are an opportunity for each of these players to show their worth, to show how much they are able to contribute on the floor as the Wizards are looking to build for next year. Now you come into Orlando with no pressure on you and completely counted out. And if you're someone like Rui Hachimura or Troy Brown Jr. or Thomas Bryant, some of these players, Isak Bonga, another one, that are right now surprising people and impressing people with how they're playing, all you're doing is raising your value. And this is a business at the end of the day. So long term, you're showing your worth for, if not the Wizards, another team, why you can be a pivotal role on the floor for them. So I think that's actually the biggest thing that the Wizards will benefit from in this period. Of course, they're going down there with the intent of winning every game. No one is going down there to lose. But long term is actually where we'll see the most benefit, as we've already been hearing rumors about the future of Bradley Beal, the future of Scott Brooks, the future of John Wall. Now you have some more players and pieces to add in to really build a good core moving forward.
And you mentioned John Wall, and I have to ask you, does his age scare you in regards to his comeback attempt in 2021? I mean, it seems like not so very long ago, there was a guy named Gilbert Arenas who was very good and couldn't stay healthy as well. Are we going down that same path? And can John Wall be, obviously he's not going to ever be what he once was in his prime, but can he be like a Derrick Rose kind of story?
Yeah, I think so. I think for John Wall coming out of Kentucky, we all knew he was going to be a player that would come into the league and do incredible things. And he's even still made comments about him and Beal being one of the best backcourts in the league. And I think there really is the potential to do that. But I think the biggest difference is, much like we're seeing with Joel Embiid and the Sixers, and I know we'll get into that later, they're going to have to adjust the way that they work with John Wall. He is injury bitten. He has not been able to fully finish out a season and be healthy all the way through from start to finish. And there's always something that comes up that slows him down. So I think the biggest thing is having players like we're seeing now around the Wizards that are stepping up and being able to show, what they can do on the floor. Hopefully it actually takes some of that stress off of John Wall, that he can now defer to his teammates. Maybe it's more load management. Maybe it's, even just within the game as he's playing, not having to take as many shots or get to the basket as many times. But I mean, the Achilles injury as a whole, just to me, is a sign of so much wear and tear and so much that has never been fully healed and taken care of. So, I think long-term for John Wall at 29 years old, you'd like to think that he still has a few more years left in him to be a top guard in the league. And I'm hoping for a comeback like we saw with Derrick Rose. That would be incredible for him to be able to have the ability to have some good, healthy years that you can just focus on playing and don't have to worry about this injury and sitting out and watching more games from the sideline than on the floor. So, I'm hoping that it'll work out, and hopefully all this time that he's taken to heal, he'll be healing properly, that's a hard injury to come back from, but also able to come back for the franchise being more proactive to make sure that we can minimize injuries moving forward.
I would love for him to come back. I'm a big fan of John Wall ever since he got
Mhm.
to Kentucky. Always was. The only thing that scares me is he was never a high percentage shooter. So,
Right.
obviously he gets the one man fast break name because of his speed. And when you're trying to come back from an Achilles injury, I mean, we've seen it before. It can be done. You just never ever know. But you mentioned Joel Embiid, and obviously I'm the Philly guy, and I have to ask, I love hearing, the outsider, so to speak, opinion of what they think of Joel Embiid, because when healthy, the proof is in the pudding. The man is unstoppable, but he's very immature. He needs a lot of work. He needs a lot of conditioning. Do you think his health will hold him back in order to be the next coming of that next great center in the NBA?
Since I am from Jersey and in Jersey, I should say, I get into a lot of discussions around the Sixers as well, being local. So
Love
the
it.
biggest thing about Joel Embiid is he's always, much like we talked about with John Wall, he's always injured. It's
Yep.
always something with him. And even this calf tightness and issues he's been having in the NBA preseason, it's just, again, here we are expecting after 4.5 months, he's going to come in. You've had plenty of time to rest. You've had plenty of time to heal. You should be in better shape knowing that you've had conditioning issues in the past and issues in the past to be able to come into this season ready to go. And to see the calf tightness and his day to day and being, as of this past weekend, they were reevaluating him today to see, what's going to happen with him moving forward. It's exhausting from that sense because he has so much potential. You look at his size, he can shoot, he can get to the basket, he has so much versatility. And the fact that his two major issues have been his conditioning and his injuries and constantly getting hurt that are holding him back, it's very frustrating, especially for the Sixers team that on paper, from top to bottom, you look at, of course, having Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, what Shake Milton's able to do. Of course, Al Horford coming in hasn't shaken out the way that was anticipated. But still, top to bottom, this is a very talented Sixers team when they're all healthy, when they're all playing on the same page. We still haven't been able to see it. And knowing that you are 8 games before the playoffs officially start, you need to be right now working through your plays, getting back into some sort of rhythm and game rhythm. And Joel Embiid's not on the floor to do that. It's scary. It's alarming. So I'm not really sure how this is going to pan out, but I know there's been a lot of discussions. Tony, you can definitely attest to this around the future of Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons in Philly, as there have been so many rumors about them not being able to work together on the floor and all these different. It's just, why not? You've got 2 All-Stars, you've got 2 of the best
Yes.
players in the league. The Sixers are a team with a number of talented guys around them. They should be a top team in the East. Yet here we are yet again, another season, talking about what's all that's going to go wrong instead of all the great things that could go right.
And it brings me to the Brett Brown problem, and right,
Yes.
and the reason why I say that you said exactly what has been frustrating the heck out of me for years was, how can we get Joel and Ben to play together? You have
Mhm.
2 generational superstars. What do you mean? How can you get them to play together? I mean, go ask Phil Jackson how he got Kobe and Shaq to play together when they were at each other's throat. Like, if you are a good coach, if you are a master mental mind, you should be able to get 2 superstars and put them in a position to play. And you mentioned Al
Mhm.
Horford, right? I was excited when we called. Listen,
I was
whenever,
too. I thought it
right,
was a
right,
great he was
yeah.
a great addition.
That's what I said. And when you're a Philly fan and you have a rivalry with Boston, when you can take one of their best players off of them and one that was killing you year after year,
Mhm.
it's a win. And I thought, here we go. Here's Al. He's the big brother to Joel, and he's going to. And then I was like, wait a minute. This is not the Al Horford did not come here to shoot 15 threes a game. So, this brings me to the question of Brett Brown. And I'm not a Brett Brown guy. Anybody who's followed me know I've been questioning Brett Brown for years, and I'm still going to question him. So your opinion overall, from an outside point of view, Brett Brown, is he the right coach for this team?
Oh, I've said it many times. I think that he is part of the problem.
Thank
No,
you.
and
Thank
I
you.
just don't think that Brett Brown's coaching fits with what the Sixers need. I'm
Yep,
not going to say he's a terrible coach altogether. I just think that he doesn't fit with what the Sixers need. And
exactly.
so that's why, for me, one of the things that was really exciting about Al Horford coming in was, I thought and even with Jimmy Butler, actually, I thought
Yes.
they would be able to have the leadership that the Sixers were lacking.
Yep.
We saw time after time down the stretch in clutch moments, especially in the postseason, where the Sixers just didn't really have a go-to player, a go-to guy, someone that was stepping up and saying, this is what we're going to do, this is the play we're going to run, and taking control of the game. And it has to happen either on the sideline with your coach or on the floor with one of your players. And to see this still continue to be a lingering issues, where I know the move for Ben Simmons to go to the 4 has been looking great. He's been playing better. He's been even shooting more. You know, we can say all this, and at the end of the day, come postseason time, if the Sixers are unable to at least be a top team in the East and be in the Eastern Conference Finals, they've underperformed yet again. And you have to start taking a look within. I don't think it should be an issue of Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, because like you said, Shaq and Kobe were able to figure it out. We're also in a league where you have to have 2 all-stars to even be in contention to be a championship team. You look across the league, Anthony Davis and LeBron James, Russell Westbrook and James Harden, Kawhi and Paul George, KD and Kyrie when they get back to being healthy. You know, across the league, the best teams have 2 all-stars on their team leading them. You have Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. They have the size. They've got the versatility. Of course, Ben Simmons is not really a threat from the perimeter, although he's trying. He's trying to work on that. But Joel Embiid can at least shoot from the perimeter. Why can't you work it out? Why is this team unable to get over that hump and be a top team in the East, especially once LeBron James left the East? That's when it was open for anyone. The Bucks and Celtics have stepped up into that role. The Raptors have stepped up into that role. The Sixers have not. So you have to start to wonder, where is the disconnect? Why is it that they're unable to become the team that on paper they should be? And for me, I do think it's Brett Brown. I don't think he's got the leadership qualities, and he doesn't, you know, some of his decision making and the rotations and things like that, to me, are a little questionable. So it's no knock on him as a coach. It's just him and the Sixers don't mesh. And I think it's time to move forward. I don't know who comes into that role, to be honest, but I think it's time to start shopping around and see who would be the next head coach for them. Especially if this year they do not at least make it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that was the big, Elton Brand knock was, this is big year, big things, if finals are bust, and we'll see what happens. And the one thing that always killed me was a sticking point with Brett Brown was, whether it be Jimmy Butler, whether it be Tobias Harris, whether it be Al Horford, every time I would consistently hear the excuse of, well, we have to learn how to play together. And I'm like, wait a minute, how come the Boston Celtics can get Gordon Hayward back and you bring in Kemba Walker in here and you don't miss a beat? Like,
they're better.
Right. Because Brad Stevens knows how to utilize his players.
Bingo.
Right. And you would think that an assistant coach in San Antonio under Pop, who watched guys like Tim Duncan play down low, pass it out to guys like Kawhi and Tony Parker. Why are we not doing that here? So it's one of two things. It is Brett Brown not being able, like you said, he's not a good leader. So, maybe Joe's like, I'm not doing that. And Brett Brown continues to let the kids run the asylum, so to speak. And unfortunately, we have to start looking ahead, whether it be, listen, Jason Kidd, whether it be, I'll go San Antonio again. I would love a change. I keep saying I would love to see Becky Hammond here. And the reason why because I think these players, Renee, need to be challenged. And I think if you bring in a retread kind of coach, I don't think they're going to respect somebody like a Becky Hammond. It's like, listen, she has built her craft from the ground up, and this is the next coming. And she's learned, and I understand Brett learned from Pop too, but listen, she's widely respected around the NBA, and this would be her first job. This isn't a retread. So I think that's an experiment. I think it's worth looking at for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is they need a coach that's going to light a fire into these players. And I even look at the off-floor shenanigans and the pregame meals that they're eating and stuff. What is all that? I mean, the Chick-fil-A discussion around Matisse Thybulle going to get Chick-fil-A for everyone, and the amount of fast food that Joel Embiid has to eat before a game. That's funny and everything, but that doesn't make sense.
Nope.
They're supposed to be professional athletes playing at the highest level. So it's not a good look. And so I think that they definitely need a coach that's going to kind of lay the ground rules and change the culture of the team in that sense, where they can be more focused and be ready to play. I think there's just too many issues, and to see the amount of injuries that are happening to me across the board, of Joel Embiid leading that, but across the board, just the injuries that they have as a team, just is concerned to how they're training and how they're preparing.
Yep. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I agree. I would love to see Becky Hammon in that role. I know there were rumors and discussions around her going to New York to coach the Knicks.
And
That would
that's
be
not happening now,
a
right?
dumpster fire. Yeah, that's definitely not happening. But I wouldn't even want that for her. It's not fair to
No,
set her up to fail
no.
like that with the Knicks.
Even
But this,
even like a Mark Jackson, I would say
yeah.
because I think he got a bad rep in Golden State,
Mm-hmm.
right? So is somebody who is going to be a different mold, and either way, I think we both agree. A lot of people agree. I think this is it, and the thing is, don't give me the NBA restart as the excuse. And, they had all this time off. This is what coaches are made of, when you have to think on the fly and you don't have the ability to have your normal practice, your normal film sessions,
Mm-hmm.
and right? You have to game plan, in the huddle. And we're going to see what Brett Brown's really made of. We really are. But you mentioned real fan Ben Simmons going to the 4. And the one thing I will say about Ben Simmons, and I am so exhausted from hearing people talking about his shooting ability, because in my opinion, Ben Simmons does not need to shoot. Ben Simmons needs to finish. I think that's his biggest issue. I am so tired of him going floor to floor looking to dish. He gets caught in the air more times than a 7th grader in Pee Wee basketball, right? It's consistent. That is the consistent communication between coach and player in Pee Wee ball is, do not leave your feet without not knowing where you're going to go with the ball. And Ben Simmons, he gets to the rim with ease. He just needs to finish. He needs a little floater, a little jumper, like from 10 feet down. And I think this could be the perfect scenario. I don't want to see him shooting threes. And I don't understand the fascination. I get it that this is a 3-point league. I understand that. But you still have to go with what these players' capabilities are. And he's not a 3-point shooter. He's never going to be a 3-point shooter, but he can get to the rim, just like Giannis. He can get to the rim. So I just think he needs to finish more than he needs to shoot.
Yeah, he's 24 years old. He's been, I blame his youth coaches for not forcing him to have more of a perimeter game. But at this point, you're not going to drastically change his game. Now, if you were fine-tuning his jump shot or his free throws, that's different. But to expect him to go from shooting 0 shots from beyond the arc to now becoming a 3-point shooter, it's not practical. And he's a great player for what he already is able to do. So I honestly feel like at this point, by the nonstop conversations around it and the way that people actually celebrate every time he shoots a 3 or shoots a jumper, it's almost becoming just a mind game. And you're mentally going to psych him out to the point that he's now overthinking instead of just playing. So I like the move for him to the 4. That's his natural role. He likes to be closer to the basket. He sees the floor well. So now if he's receiving the ball on the baseline, able to see the floor, he's in a much more dangerous spot on the court to be an asset for the Sixers. He's not a jump shot. He has no perimeter game. He's not going to shoot the jump shot. And to have him bringing up the ball and running the offense is just kind of a waste. So Shake Milton did a great job at that. They don't need Ben Simmons to bring the ball up. And transition's one thing, but to run a half-court offense, he doesn't have to be the player to do that. So I'm okay with the move. I just still, as you mentioned, I'm annoyed with the constant discussion around he needs to shoot. It's not going to happen. He's not. No. It's just, you can't change his game like that drastically to expect him to now become this great perimeter presence. Giannis was already shooting a little bit. It was just about getting him more consistent in his shot. Ben was not shooting at all. So I think at this point, it's just like we were talking about before, even around the discussions on Joel Embiid's health. And it's just another thing that we're constantly talking about that's not solving the overall problem. It's like a distraction for everyone, including the Sixers, because Absolutely. We're so focused on his shooting game. We're not addressing the real problem. Why is it that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid aren't on the floor together? Why can't they be healthy throughout, especially now in a shortened season? They should be able to finish all the way through. So there's a bigger question and, to me, alarming issues that need to be fixed besides just Ben Simmons' perimeter game.
No, you're absolutely correct, because the one thing that always scares the heck out of me is to know that for some reason each one of those guys independently plays better without the other one on the court. So I don't even understand that. I don't get it. I don't know if it's a player theory coach thing, but we are definitely going to find out. But what I always like to do, tremendous insight. I thank you for all your responses and your organic conversations. It's been fantastic. But I like to end on a couple fun topics. I always get to see what, people's background and what they're thinking. And I was always was a big fun. I liked the Big Three League with Ice Cube. I thought it was really
Oh,
cool.
I
to
loved
see,
it.
right? Yeah, older players come back, and I enjoyed the heck out of it, right? I did, and I was thinking this question, like technically right now, if you were assembling a Big Three of current NBA players, can't be past players, current NBA, you can go to the blacktop with 3 guys. Who are those players going to be?
Yeah, I like this question. I did get to see the Big Three in Miami last summer. That was exciting.
That's excellent.
Yeah, that was fun. I would say without a doubt LeBron James, Kawhi, and I would say I think Giannis as that number 3.
Yeah, I think Giannis has to be in there.
Yeah, I mean, especially looking at the fact that we're talking current as of today, healthy players. Who's playing the best? I would go with those 3.
It's funny because I have Kawhi and Giannis on my list, but I don't have LeBron.
No,
I don't have LeBron. I went Luka Doncic. So I listen.
How do you go against the king? Conversation over. I'm Team James over here. Time for me to see myself out.
I am Team MJ. You're a Team Jimmy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I've gotten into a lot of debates over this.
See, that could be a whole nother show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this pandemic, especially once The Last Dance came out, which was beautifully done, by the way, and that was exciting to watch. I have gotten into so many LeBron, Jordan debates, and I'm not changing my perspective. You are entitled to whatever you think, and we can agree to disagree.
Well, what I will say is I think one thing you will agree on, which I tell people all the time, because we have fantastic debates about the 2 players, but what I can say is I feel blessed that at 42 years old, I was able to watch both players in their prime. Right? I mean, how often can you say whether you've basically watched Kobe, Michael, LeBron all play in their prime and be able to talk about it, and as a kid growing up, you've always had to look at past eras. Like I never watched Oscar Robertson play and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. So they were kind of like when I was very young, but I got to watch most definitely probably the 3 best players of all time, especially guards as small forwards that in my prime, in their prime, which was, I just feel blessed about that. So that's one way I start the conversation.
There you go. I like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the other thing. And this is another interesting question, which I think it can go all over the place. I love shooters. I loved watching the 3-point shot back in the day. I love buzzer beaters. But if you're a coach and you had one shot to take, one game defining moment, who is going to be your shooter out of this is anybody. This is past, current. Who is the guy taking their last second shot?
I think I got to go with Jesus Shuttlesworth, Ray Allen.
Oh,
I think I'm going Ray Allen, actually.
I like it.
If you're talking like a game-winning now, of course, if we're talking who's got the ball in their hands to make a good decision, that could be Kobe, different. LeBron, MJ. That's different. But if we're talking about just a game-winning shot, got to go Shuttlesworth. Got to go Ray Allen. I mean, of course, we've seen him in those moments.
I got to go Reggie Miller.
That's a good one, too. That's a good one. Oh, that's a good one, actually.
I mean, it's hard to not even do big shot Bob justice either. I mean, Robert Ory.
Yeah.
No matter what team he played for, he's always at the end of the game. But it's even hard to even claim and not say Steph. So right. So it's hard. But Reggie Miller. Unfortunately, he was just one of those guys that lived in the Jordan era.
He did.
They couldn't get past those Bulls like Patrick Ewing and the Knicks. But I guess we'll talk about that another day. Renee, listen, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate it. Please let everybody know any new things are going on. I mean, from being a reporter, an author, a speaker. You just do it all. Explain to everybody where they can find you.
Yeah. I'm all over the place. I'm on every social media platform. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Renee P. Wash on Twitter, at Renee P. Washington on Facebook and Instagram. My show, Beyond the Headlines, has its own pages. I have a website, reneepwashington.com. I'm on YouTube. I'm everywhere, and we're having these same discussions. We're talking, I love your points about Reggie Miller, Steph Curry, Patrick Ewing. There's so many players. One of the best things I love about sports that we don't even talk about as much as we should. When you look over the decades across sports too, we're just talking basketball right now. So, we're getting into all these topics and more. And Tony, I'm excited to have you on my show, Locked on Wizards, and you guys can check that out Monday to Friday we're talking Wizards every single day. So thank you so much for having me on. It's been fun.
Absolutely, Renee. I appreciate it. And for everybody tuning in again, go give her a follow. She's fantastic. She does so many great things. Your host, Tony Cotillo at TCotillo23 at Heat Ratio Sports, Fox Sports The Gambler, PhillyInfluencers.com. Everybody be safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next time.
Everything you do feels like the right thing, feels like the right move.
That's my focus.